process and focus maybe on one that you spend a little bit more time to customize that message that goes along with that post. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so I'll talk about different, yes, Dale?
Is it actually more effective to place it personally, place it yourself onto like Facebook rather than have it automated? Or does it really make a difference?
Well, it depends if the message is consistent with your audience, right? So if you're using Facebook to, that's actually a hard question to answer, because if part of your strategy to use Facebook to just gain followers, and you have to identify why your followers on Facebook will do what purpose and that your strategy will work, then writing a blog post title, that may be sufficient. But if you're using Facebook specifically for something that just having a blog post, it won't be relevant to your audience on Facebook, then it may be, you may have to customize the message a little bit. And this is actually an important point, is that there are many social networks. There's so many that it would be impossible to cover all of them, right? To be able to post your content on all of them. Manually anyway. But the question is, with each network, is it important to your business, to your audience, or do you even care about being present in that social media or that particular channel? So identifying your strategy, I think, is important, is how you're using social media, and therefore what you're putting on social media has to be consistent with that particular strategy for that particular channel. Okay? Okay, so here are some examples of how you can actually integrate social buttons and things on your website. That way you make it easy for people to share your content on Facebook or on Twitter or Google+. And these are screenshots of different ways. It comes in many different flavors. You can have something that looks like this, where someone can like it, like a particular page. They can add it to their Google+ one. They can share it on LinkedIn. This is a particular type. This is a different website I made, and I decided to include a like button at the very bottom. So there was 247 people that liked that particular page, and this would fit in with, at the end of a blog post, you can have different channels you're offering people to share it. So after your blog post, you write a blog post, people can like it, and then that automatically shares it with their own audience. And so on. So they come in different flavors, and you can customize these. So you can include Google+ if that's important to you, or you don't have to have Google+. So there's no really standard here, but the key is to include ones that you want to be found on, right? So you want to give the options to, if I'm not on Google+, I can keep it there, and then people can still share it with their own networks, but maybe I don't care I'm being in Google+. Does that make sense? So you kind of have to think about it, because obviously you can't include all the different social networks. You can't give that many options.
Can I give it?
Yes.
When I'm reading a blog post and I decide to share it, what I do is I usually do Facebook first, and then I write something about why I'm sharing it, and then I copy it. And then when I go to LinkedIn, I just paste. But if I feel like, for some reason, because it's a little different audience, I need to tweak what I wrote, sometimes I do, or sometimes I leave it the same. Then I go to Google+ and do the same thing. I go to tweet. So I read a lot of blogs, and I try to make a lot of comments, so it really saves time to do that. Just a little tip.
Right. Right. And if your audience are only on Facebook, and you know that as a fact, then there's no point in cluttering the page with other little buttons. But if you only know your audience are not on Facebook, then including that button may not do anything and just be adding, again, clutter to your website. So it depends on your audience, how well you know them and what social networks they use. Right? So if Dale, for example, uses Facebook and then copies the rest, but if Dale doesn't have Facebook and just likes to use Google+, then you want to have that option there. Right? So you can think of this, you want to add social media in areas that make sense, right? So the contact page, for example, do you need those sharing buttons on your contact page? Probably not, right? And the about page, maybe not. So again, it kind of is consistent with if you have a good story to tell, that you think your audience would be interested in your own personal story, then having the sharing buttons on your about page would be useful, right? But if it's just a corporate page that just has no value in anyone sharing it, then you probably shouldn't have it. Having it won't hurt, but again, you can just add it where it makes sense. And again, it's consistent, has to be consistent with your strategy. If your goal is to promote your content on Facebook and Twitter, then it has to be on pages that allow people to do that, right? So previously we covered, in the previous slide, we covered how it makes it easy for people to share your content. So if I'm reading a blog post and then I would like to like that particular post, I click like and I'm sharing it as a reader, sharing it to the audience. Another example of integrating social media is to actually make it easy to connect with you. And that would include buttons like this, that look like this, and allows the reader to connect with your own social account, your social network account. So in this case, if I click on this button, for example, it's going to take me to the Facebook page of that company or of that website. Okay? Where'd the mouse go? So again, they come in different. They can look different depending on your design and all that. But there's different ways you can integrate it, and also it varies. Based on which channels you have. So these are buttons of your own account. Does that make sense? So if you don't have a Google Plus account or your Google Plus account is not active, then it doesn't make sense to include that Google Plus logo on there, right? And again, this would have to make sense for your own business. For example, this is the Yelp logo, right? This is actually from Steve's site. And if you don't have a physical location, that doesn't make sense to have a Yelp logo. If you do have a physical location and you want to emphasize Yelp, then it would be good to include that logo. That way people can click on it and connect with you on Yelp and leave a review, right? So these things, they kind of have to make sense for your own business. A different way to do this is to include this box. Again, this is from Steve's site, and this is a like box. So when someone clicks on that, they actually like your Facebook page. Right? But you can include that on your own website, that someone can like your Facebook page directly from your website. Okay? Again, where you put this on the site, some people like to put it in the very top right, some people like to hide it in the footer, some people like to hide it in the sidebar somewhere. So again, that depends on your own preferences and your own strategy. If you want to have your social media very visible, then you want to put it in the very place where everyone can see it. If having people connect with you on those social media is not that important to you for some reason, then you can hide it somewhere. That way you still have it visible, on the site, but it's not the first thing people see. Okay, another example is to include recent tweets. This is on the Smart Group website here. This is from my own website, and this is actually from, I think this is from Deborah's website. Is that right? Maybe not. Yeah, it is, yeah. So anyway, this is another area where it can engage somebody. So if they like your page, or if I visit their website and I see your recent tweets, and some of them may engage me and I feel like you're providing value on Twitter, then I can click to follow you. There's another way to integrate that, and you can just include the follow buttons. That way when someone clicks on that button, they can follow you right away. So this, again, some examples of how you can integrate Twitter into your website. Does this make sense? Do you have any questions so far? No? Mike, you don't have any questions? Good. Yeah?
What is RSS?
RSS, it stands for really simple syndication. I think that's one of the definitions, and it's a way to automate or to subscribe to something. So a blog typically comes with what's called an RSS feed, and then if you add that to your own RSS reader, then you don't have to visit that particular blog to read the new site. As that blog writes a new blog post, then you get it in your reader right away without actually you having to visit that blog.
Do people use it outside of the blog world?
Yeah, actually it's very useful for different things, yeah.
Yeah, I send everything to Google Reader, and then when I just feel like reading blogs, I just go through my Google Reader. It pops up on my Google page.
Yeah, Twitter, a lot of stuff has RSS. Like Twitter, for example, has an RSS feed where you can integrate it. You can use it to integrate into different things. That way you can see it in your Google Reader or a different kind of RSS reader. So it's a way to monitor other things happening on other sites without actually having to go. That's the most the most important, most prominent use of that in different things.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to have to interrupt this presentation for some breaking news. You'll notice this is the blog post that introduced, and actually you can see the date here was June 12th, so about a week ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, where Facebook came out with a plugin for WordPress. So again, like I mentioned at the very beginning, Facebook engineers actually sat down and created this plugin specifically to integrate Facebook with WordPress. And we'll talk about this for the remainder of the time. So has anybody actually looked at it so far?